I am Mira Dessy, and I am coming to you from Houston, Texas, as I said earlier. And I am on the nutrition consultant side of things. I'm a Bowman grad, and I am a member of the faculty for the NC program. I'm excited to be supporting Chef Carrie with today's demonstration. And Carrie, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Mira. I'm Chef Carrie Bonfitto. I'm the culinary program manager here at Bowman College. So I get to wear a lot of hats, but one of the things I love doing is teaching. And so I get to do that occasionally as a substitute teacher. I'm also really involved with the externship program and developing the curriculum for all of the students and supporting the chefs. So wonderful to have you here. And I hope you're interested in our program. I We have students from all over the world. I'm personally from Los Angeles, California, and that's where I teach from. And we have instructors on the East Coast and the West Coast as well. Today, I am going to be making salad dressings. So we like to call this salad dressing magic because salad dressing is one of those things that feels like maybe a complicated dressing that you're making because there can be a lot of ingredients in salad dressing, but we're going to really kind of show you how easy it can be to make three different salad dressings with three different techniques today. We're going to start with a simple lemon vinaigrette, and then we're going to do a dairy-free ranch, and then we're going to move on to doing an Asian inspired vinaigrette with a lime and ginger and some wonderful flavors in there. So Mira is here with me, and she's going to be talking about some of the nutritional benefits, and we're going to be having a nice back and forth as I'm cooking. So Mira, tell me, what do you like about homemade salad dressings?
That's such a great question. I think a lot of people don't necessarily think that hard about their salad dressings. It's just something you add to your salad. But truthfully, there is a lot of benefit because they're not just an add-on. They're a great way to add a nutrient-dense boost to what you're doing. It enhances the flavor. It also adds to the nutritional functional benefits of your entire meal. And then as simple and easy as it is to make them, one of the other biggest benefits is it can save you so much money. Has anyone been to the grocery store lately and seen what a bottle of salad dressing costs? It's kind of ridiculous. And for a fraction of that, you can make so many different dressings that have an incredible range of flavor profiles.
Absolutely. That is so, so true. All right, so let's start with our lemon vinaigrette. So I'm going to show you my cutting board so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. So this is a really easy jar dressing. So we're going to put some of these wonderful ingredients in a jar and shake it up just to show you you don't need a whole lot. But one thing that is really important for dressings is an emulsification agent. And so for this dressing, we're using a little bit of Dijon mustard to emulsify, and that means to keep the oil and the water from separating. So usually the water component is vinegar. And so for this one, we're going to actually use lemon. And then we're going to use a nice olive oil that's been extra virgin, which means it's the first cold pressing and it's going to have a lot of polyphenols in there. And so for this dressing, we're thinking about ratios, and we're going to do 1 part of our lemon juice, and then we're going to do 1/3 of our emulsifying agent, that Dijon mustard, and then we're going to do 2 parts of our olive oil. So as I'm putting that together, maybe Mira wants to tell us about some of our ingredients. I'm going to start
Yeah,
by juicing my lemon.
absolutely. I would love to. Olive oil is one of my favorite things to include in a salad dressing. Actually, any healthy fat is a really good choice. one of the things you definitely don't ever want to do when you're having a salad is to eat it with a low fat or fat free dressing. And that's because many of the ingredients that are in your salad are rich in something called fat soluble vitamins. So that would be A, E, and K. There's another fat soluble vitamin, which is D, but that doesn't usually appear too much in salad dressing ingredients. But carrots, leafy greens, those both have A in them. Leafy greens and herbs also tend to have a lot of vitamin K. The nuts, the seeds, the avocado are also a good source of vitamin E, and they do have a little bit of fat, but adding that olive oil is a really great way to make sure that your body is using all of the nutrients that you're offering it when you make a beautiful, delicious salad.
Lovely. And so now I've got that olive oil in there as well as the lemon juice and our Dijon mustard. I'm also just going to do a crack or two of pepper. And so when we're talking about the ratios that I did, remember I said 1 part lemon, 2 parts olive oil, and then a third of the Dijon. Um, you can scale that up and down really easily. So you could make a vat of this for a big party if you were going to have a big salad for your party, or you could make just one serving if you wanted to as well. And I'm just making enough, I think, for about one large salad, maybe to serve 4 or 5 people. And all I did was I put that in the jar and I'm shaking it, right? And this is going to help the olive oil and the vinegar of that lemon juice, the acid we're using there, combine. And you can see that just, about 30 minutes of shaking, 30 seconds of shaking really gets us a nice combined dressing. And this is great if you're going to serve the salad right away. This will stay emulsified like this. But if you're going to be serving the salad later in the evening and you want to prep this, then emulsifying it by hand will keep it together a lot better. And I'm going to show you that process with one of our later dressings. But this is a great, easy way to put together a really flavorful salad dressing um, in minutes, right? And let's taste this just to
And
see.
while you're getting your spoon to taste it, Carrie, I'd love to also point out for a lot of commercial dressings, they use plant gums as their emulsifying agent. And plant gums aren't necessarily harmful for you, but overconsumption of them is maybe not great for gut health. Plus, there's added preservatives or other ingredients like that. So having the opportunity to make it with fresh ingredients and have it naturally emulsified is going to be a much better nutritionally supportive choice.
100%. That is so important. And so for this, I'm actually not tasting. So tasting a dressing with a spoon might not give you the the balancing that you want. So I'm actually going to taste just with what I'm going to serve it on. In this case, it's just a piece of frisee to see. I can really taste the lemon forward on this. I can taste the olive oil. The salt is really nice. I think it does need just a little bit more of a crack of pepper. Interesting thing about pepper is that it actually can add some sweet notes to what you're making, so it can balance out a little bit of the acid as well. And your lemon is going to vary. It's a natural product, so some lemons are more sour, some lemons are a little bit more bitter. So making sure that you are thinking about that and knowing you're going to have to taste and flavor balance and can't just rely on the recipe every time. So let's taste this again with the pepper.
And I love that tasting tip, Carrie, because I've been using spoons and now I'm going to switch. I love the idea of just dipping a piece of what you're going to serve it with into that jar and make sure that it blends.
And that helps so much. Like I was getting a little bit too much acid. And so just that little bit of sweetness from the pepper without adding an added sweetener. Now, as I set up for the next one, Mira, what? What do you know about added sweeteners and dressings? Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, there is so much that's added. One of the biggest challenges, and this is where we really have to pay attention and read the label, is that because food producers know people tend to want to watch their sugars or whatever, they use artificial sweeteners, which is never a good choice. They have a lot of negative benefits for our gut microbiome, and they don't actually provide any nutrient-rich support. And then for those dressings where they think people maybe won't mind, like a honey Dijon or something like that, they're adding sweeteners, but they add so much because we are kind of biologically programmed to seek out sugar. And food producers know if they make it a little bit sweeter, we may think that it tastes better. But if you're making it at home, you get to be in control and make it at the right level for you instead of an overwhelming amount of sweet.
Yes, and we can do that with all kinds of dressings. Even this dressing, which I'm going to use a mayonnaise base. Mayonnaise is a dressing. It can be a condiment too, but we're going to make a homemade mayo with just our handy immersion blender here, a little bit of avocado oil, again, that Dijon mustard as the emulsifying agent, the lemon as the acid, and then we're going to do egg. The egg yolk is also going to emulsify the lemon juice into this dressing. So I'm just doing one egg, um, and then I'm going to put my Dijon mustard. This is just about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, a very common ingredient in mayo. And then just a little bit of lemon juice, maybe 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. I'm just squeezing that directly in there. All right, and then I am going to put my immersion blender in here. And then I'm going to pour my olive oil in here. And we can actually do this all at once. We don't have to stream it in there. But the technique we're going to use for this is which is very important. We're going to leave the immersion blender in the bottom of the jar. And it's important that you have a jar that just fits your immersion blender, that it doesn't, there isn't a lot of space in there. If you have too wide of a jar, you're not going to be able to blend the mayo. And then I'm going to leave this at the bottom until it emulsifies, until we see it getting creamy and looking like mayo. So I'm going to turn my blender up to high and then just start it. And like I said, I'm not moving it.
And so, Carrie, while you're doing that and showing that to us, I did want to point out that both avocado oil and olive oil are rich in monounsaturated fats, which are very heart healthy and have actually been shown to potentially reduce bad cholesterol levels. They're also both really good sources of vitamin E and antioxidants. And look at how beautifully that's coming together. Oh my gosh, so creamy.
And like I said, once you do get it to be mayo, you can start moving your blender up and down because there is a little bit, if you can see, there is a little bit of oil still at the top. But I also want to just add a pinch of salt in here as well to get that component. Get my camera to focus. And there we go. We have this beautiful, luscious, homemade mayo really instantly here. And I'm going to use this now to make a dairy-free ranch dressing. So I've got more mayo that I've made earlier, plus some of my other ingredients that I'm just going to add to this. So we've got all of the mayo. We're going to have some Dijon. And then I'm going to add some herbs. So these are some beautiful herbs. We have dill, we have chives, and we have parsley already washed and I'm going to chop them up and get Mira some time to tell us about these wonderful ingredients.
Thank you. One of the things I'd like to start with because we're making a ranch dressing is to point out that like the ever popular Hidden Valley Ranch, it is a dressing that it doesn't matter how popular it is, it still often contains genetically modified ingredients, which can be really harmful for our gut health. And another challenge with those kinds of commercial dressings, especially ranch style dressings, is they tend to have a number of different forms of monosodium glutamate in them. And that has been linked to things like headaches, heart palpitations. They have also been linked to inflammation of the liver or other physical symptoms. Some people can get rashes or allergy type symptoms. And then many ranch style dressings also tend to have artificial flavor or other ingredients that I like to refer to as non-nutritive ingredients, meaning they provide no nutritional value. This particular ranch dressing has a number of wonderful benefits because it's going to help support digestion, reduce inflammation, and the Dijon mustard and the citrus that are in this are going to help stimulate your digestive enzymes, help with bile flow for better nutrient breakdown. And then all of those beautiful herbs that Chef Carrie is chopping up right now have a lot of phytonutrients in them. And herbs are also a really great way to increase your plant diversity. For example, did you know that your microbiome, and that is, your gut, basically, your little bacteria that live in there, it does really, really well when you eat 30 to 40 different plant species every week. Isn't that amazing? 30 to 40 may sound like a lot, but if you look at this, all of a sudden there's three right there just in this dressing. And then the mustard also counts. That's a seed, so that's a plant. The olive oil, sorry, this was avocado oil. The avocado counts, that's a plant. And so when we start adding them up at that level, we're realizing that it's far easier than you think to get that support for your microbiome by adding all these different plants and in a way that makes it super delicious.
They really are delicious here, and having those three herbs together really creates this complexity that I think is what people like about the ranch dressings. So, and then the mustard is going to go in here, and then I'm going to put the rest of that mayo. I love counting my different plants that I'm eating too. Mira told me about that, and I started doing it, and I was really pleasantly surprised. And it's fun because it helps you like deconstruct the meals you're eating, even if you haven't cooked them. All right, and so this mayo is going to go in here, and this is pretty thick, right now. And so we can decide if we want this to be a a dip, right? Ranch is commonly used as a dip, and the dressing is often very thick as it's coming out of that bottle. So we can really decide if we want this to be a thick dressing or if we want to keep it dairy-free, we can thin it out a little bit with a nut milk. All right, and so let's combine this together and see how it's looking. And we're also going to add that salt and pepper here. We're going to taste, obviously. So what do you think? I think we want this to be slightly more pourable. We're going to use it on a salad. So I am going to add a little bit of my nut milk here. I have a little bit of almond milk, making sure no vanilla in your almond milk. If you didn't make it yourself, if you bought it unsweetened, just pure nut milk. And so I'm going to stir that together as well. And then we'll taste this and see how we did. but beautiful color here, right? Doesn't look artificial. These are real colors. We have a little bit of that yellow from the egg yolk and the mustard. It just gives it such a wonderful, wonderful look. All right, again, in with the frisee.
And Chef Carrie, Lori is asking what the measurement was for the avocado oil. Is there going to be some sort of a link where people can get these dressings?
Yeah, so everything is on our blog right now. There is a, um, I believe it's from Chef Michelle. So Chef Michelle created all of these recipes. Chef Michelle is one of our graduates, and she's also a TA for us. And these are her most famous recipes that she serves to her friends, her family, people that she meals preps for. Like these are her winning dressing, her winning recipes, and she's been kind enough to share these with us. And
And
I think
thank you
that's in the
for
chat. Yeah.
reminding me that it was on the blog. I went and found it and added that to the chat. So anybody who's listening, if you don't see the chat, you could open that up and the link to the recipes will be right there.
And again, after tasting this, I know that I need a little bit more salt. I'm just doing a pinch. I'm using sea salt. Again, a more nutrient dense salt. You can, I don't know if you can see this one has a little bit of red color in it. So that's an indication of mineral content. And then the pepper again.
And I would love to share, there are lots of different kinds of sea salt. So some of them are gray. There's a Hawaiian sea salt that actually is a little bit black because of the lava that it runs through. And there are red ones, different shades of red. There's no one that's any better than the other. It's just that they have different amounts of beneficial minerals in them. One of the things that these sea salts don't have is artificial iodine, which is really difficult for your body to process.
Wonderful. And then this also needs a little bit more lemon. There isn't that enough of like that acid kick. So I'm going to add a little bit more lemon as well. As we said, we're flavor balancing
And
every
so,
step of the way.
Carrie, is this something where different people might have different flavor preferences so they could add more or less lemon or any of the other ingredients?
100%, right? So, like you said, if we all have different palettes, right? So Chef Michelle uses her palette when she prepares these. That's why a lot of our recipes say to taste. And you'll see that when I'm making the other dressing as well for the citrus, the Asian inspired dressing. Uh, we're going to add things a little bit more slowly for that one. And now for this one, you said this had MSG, right? And so
Commercial varieties can have it.
commercial varieties can. And so that's going to give a lot more of a salt kick to the dressing. So I'm going to go a little bit heavier on the salt to help people slowly transition from the store-bought to the homemade dressing. It can be really just like you said, we want to get people there, but maybe we have to do it a little bit more slowly. So I'm going to salt this a little bit more than I would maybe salt it for myself or my family who's used to eating homemade dressings. But that
That
is
sounds
our
great.
lovely Asian, sorry, our lovely
Ranch, yeah, that's
homemade ranch.
beautiful. Carrie, Isabella is asking if there's a good substitute for an immersion blender.
You can definitely, if you don't have an immersion blender, you can make mayo in other blenders, a micro bullet or a regular blender. Something that happens though is that you have to really up the quantity, depending on the size of your blender to actually get it to emulsify. So that's just a consideration. You might want to find a recipe that has the ratios for that. You can also find higher quality mayos. They're on the shelves, so you can look for them, read the ingredient labels. Those are something that you could substitute that higher quality mayo for if you don't have the if you aren't making this. This is not going to last as long in your fridge as the Hidden Valley Ranch because there's no preservatives, but it will last a good 2 weeks, even with the homemade mayo. So just really be thinking about how much you need and what you're going to be using it for. All
That
right, should
looks
we move on to
fabulous.
our final dressing?
Yes, let's do that.
All right. So for this one, I'm going to show you all of these ingredients.
Look
So
at how
we've got,
colorful that is. Oh my goodness.
right, isn't it beautiful?
Oh, it's amazing.
We've got reds and oranges and yellows and greens and just really a lot of different things. So I'm going to put out some of the things we're going to use. This is just, where can you see it? Minced red bell pepper. This is some orange zest. I'm going to show you how I zested the orange because you do it the same way as the lime. And then this is some white pepper. This is a little bit of honey. This is again our Dijon mustard. And then we have a little bit of an umami. This is tamari, which I'll let you tell everybody what tamari is in case people don't know. It can be a new ingredient. And then this is some garlic that I freshly minced and have been letting sit here to develop allicin and those compounds that really help with cholesterol. And then I'm going to grate some ginger, juice my lime as well. And then I have that juice from the orange that I already zested and a little bit of homemade cilantro oil that is going to be the base for our dressing. So while I grate my ginger and my lime, maybe you can tell us about some of these other ingredients.
Sure. So I'll start with the tamari. I think that's something a lot of people are maybe not familiar with. And it is a gluten-free soy sauce. So it's still made from soybeans, water, and salt, just like traditional soy sauce. However, it is tamari is produced through a fermentation process. So it gives it actually a little bit of a deeper, richer umami flavor. And unlike traditional soy sauce, it has no wheat in it. Traditional soy sauce tends to be filtered through a wheat base, and people who have gluten sensitivity or who have celiac disease actually should not have regular soy sauce because of the wheat. This particular dressing, like I said, is so colorful and so beautiful. And we do start our digestion with our eyes. When we see beautiful, colorful food, it tells our body that there's a lot of nutritious goodness coming our way. And this particular dressing has so much antioxidant support. There's the citrus and the red pepper, both of which provide a lot of vitamin C. They also provide flavonoids, and the C and the flavonoids help to support your immune system. They're also really good for skin health as well as for our cells. And then the red pepper also provides something called carotenoids, which are good for our eyes, for tissue health. And then for digestive support, that ginger is so amazing. That beautiful, sharp flavor has something called gingerol. And that is another ingredient that can really help with inflammation. And going back to our 30 to 40 plant foods a week, there's so much here, including cilantro. You know, the cilantro in that beautiful looking cilantro oil is a phenomenal herb. And like the other herbs that you were using, Carrie, it provides polyphenols. It also provides something called chlorophyll, which is a plant compound, and it's really supportive for the body's natural detox pathways. So adding herbs like that can be so supportive for our overall digestive health as well as our body wellness.
Yes, and I can smell this ginger now that I'm grating it. And ginger is one of those things that can go uh, take, I like to store mine in the freezer just so it
I
doesn't
do
go
the
bad
same thing.
fast.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit of frozen ginger that I'm grating now. And you can see it's getting stuck to my microplane. That's about what I need, about 2 teaspoons. All right, so all of these wonderful ingredients now are going to go into a bowl that we can use to whisk. So this process can take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to make not going to use the full amount of our ingredients here. I'm just going to take a little bit of everything to show you how this dressing emulsifies. Because as you're whisking, and it's something in this, you will build your biceps up, but it can take 15 minutes or so to fully emulsify a dressing like this. So I'm just going to do a small amount so you don't have to watch me whisk. I'll put it all together and I'll whisk more while Michelle and the emissions team are doing the presentation. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of the orange zest, the lime zest, the garlic, um, the tamari. This is a combination of the orange juice and the lime juice. This is really serving as our vinegar. A
So
small
while you're doing that, I'd love to sort of step back a second and touch on the garlic because I didn't really share anything about that. Garlic is part of the onion family. They're sort of related, and they have something called allicin in them. It's a bioactive compound that is really supportive for our immune system. As a matter of fact, there are some studies that indicate having garlic when you have a cold may actually help reduce the duration or severity of a cold, which is kind of cool. It's also good for cardiovascular health, very supportive for improving cholesterol or blood pressure profiles. And it is a natural antimicrobial. Allicin possesses these really strong antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties, also highly antioxidant. So, in addition to warding off vampires, adding more garlic is good for your health.
Absolutely. We love garlic. We love it for getting it our into ourselves, but we also teach low FODMAP diets, which some people can't tolerate garlic, and that's one of the ingredients that comes out of those diets. So bio individually is so important. Okay, so
Mm.
now I've got my cilantro oil, and I'm just going to put really just a kind of a drop at a time and whisk it until I see that combining and just kind of do it very, very slowly. So this is a very, very time consuming, slow process. You can see how it's just going in one, one drop, one dribble at a time as I'm continuing to whisk. And this is going to let everything break down properly, and so that it can combine.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to answer Marina's question, if that's okay.
Please.
So Marina put in the chat, was it herbs only or herbs and veggies and fruits? And I'm guessing you're talking about that 30 to 40 different plants per week. It is actually any vegetable matter. So herbs, seeds, nuts, veggies, fruits all count. And so I just want to encourage you guys, take a minute and track what you do in a week and see where you get. Obviously, we only count one thing once. So if you have garlic 3 times in one week, you had garlic, you had one garlic count for that week, but see how many different ones you get. And then again, look at how beautiful and colorful this dressing is. Even after it's being emulsified, you can still see the color in all of those beautiful ingredients. And that is just going to be so deeply nourishing for your body. It's really fabulous.
And so this looks pretty nice. And so this will actually stay for a while, like a couple of days without separating the oil and the vinegar for this dressing. So as you are thinking about, again, that's your planning as a chef. When are you going to be using it? How long does it need to last? And just making sure you've got those flavors balanced again. So taste, taste, taste. One more time. I've got to taste this one to see how we did. I don't think I added any salt yet, so we're probably going to be low on salt. But you know what? So flavorful, just as is. I'm going to add no salt because I have the salt from my tamari here, and I don't even need it. It's really delicious. I hope you try this one and that you look at our recipes on our website for all three of our dressings that are there. We've got um, our our Asian inspired lime vinaigrette. We have the ranch, a homemade dairy free ranch, as well as the the jar lemon vinaigrette. So these are some wonderful, easy dressings for you to make at home and share with anyone who wants to eat one of more of those plants, because we can add these. This dressing is so good, just like on a lentil salad. Doesn't have to be a lettuce salad. You don't have to dress lettuce. You could do a potato salad with the ranch. There's so many ways to really incorporate these wonderful dressings into your day. Thank you.